Hello, everybody. Welcome back. We're at the Seattle International Film Festival. So pleased to be introducing this amazing group of filmmakers for the program Seeing Red that you all just watched. I'm so pleased that we have so many of you here to talk to us about this program. Why don't you guys all start by introducing yourself, introducing your film a little bit, talk a little bit about where this project all began for you, and also just tell us where you're zooming in from. Jessica, let's start with you.
Great. Hi, my name is Jessica Siqueiros, and I am the director of Adeline the Great. I am zooming in from Medellin, Colombia. And how did this project start? This project was the result of a program that AT&T did with Lena Waithe through a mentorship program. And so I was put together with a writer and found this lovely voice together. It was the first time that I was actually directing somebody else's work. So it was a really fun and interesting process to try to figure out how to collaborate and find my style within her writing and build this story together that's really, really fun and gives voice to young activists.
Susanna, how about you?
Hello, can you hear me? Hi, so I'm Susanna Morgani. I'm a filmmaker from Sudan, and my film is El Sit. This is the story of a young girl's arranged marriage in Sudan, and I am zooming in. I do not live in 1984. I am zooming in from my little niece's, my 13-year-old niece's bedroom, and that's why it looks like this. So I'm currently based in Qatar. And this project started as a labor of love. I don't know how much anyone knows about the political situation in Sudan, but we had a military government for a very long time. And it's only recently that we've been able to make films. So you'll be seeing a lot more films from Sudan.
Siqueiros, how about you?
Hi, I'm...
Say again?
Oh, me? I'm Suki Rose. My film is Ding Dong. It came about, I wrote it specifically for the two actors in my film who are both also writers and directors who I've collaborated with, and really just wanted to create a fun piece for them to work within with really tight constraints around it. This is my first film as a director. I mostly produce and have spent most of my career supporting other people's visions, and then kind of had a moment where I was like, oh, that's not what I want to do at all. I have something to say as well. So this was my first short, and then I was gearing up to shoot a couple more shorts, and then the pandemic kind of put a pause on that, but I'm hoping to shoot some more stuff soon. And I'm Skyping in from, I just recently moved up to the woods. I'm in Idlewild, California. So still work in LA, but I'm up here now.
Olivia, let's go over to you.
Hello, everyone. My name is Olivia Boudreau. I'm in Montreal. And it's snowing right now, even though it's spring. My film is The Pond at Night, and the beginning of this story is an amazing summer night I had where me and my friend went to swim in a beautiful pond. So it was the beginning of the desire to film that.
Sierra, let's hear from you.
I'm Sierra Swartz. I'm coming in from LA, and my film is Womanhood. And it's my first film as writer, as director, as pretty much everything. And it kind of came about in a way that I can't even really pinpoint, because I wasn't trying to write anything that I thought would even be seen at all. I definitely didn't think it was going to get made. I guess I'm a woman, so I think about being a woman a lot. I introspect probably way too much. And I just, maybe it was a little cathartic. It was just something that I just felt like I really needed to get out and writing it helped me figure it out. And then when it was done, things just sort of fell together, and then it happened, and now it's made, and I'm like, I have no idea what happened, but it's made and it's great. So it's exciting. Yeah.
And over to you, Hannah.
Hi, I'm Hannah Cheeseman, and I'm calling in from Toronto, where it is not snowing like Montreal, but it's still, you know, hovering around freezing for whatever reason. My short is called Sucker. It's spelled S-U-C-C-O-R, but you pronounce it Sucker. It came from an experience I had being catfished, and then turning that into something that interests me a bit more, which is female friendships. So I just took those two things and turned it into a dark, funny friendship, platonic rom-com thriller.
So when I was putting this program together and kind of thinking about like the thematic elements of these films, you know, I was just seeing all of these like extreme emotions on screen. And I was really excited to put these films together just to like explore all of these different emotional, like different emotions that these women are going through on screen. I'm wondering if each of you can kind of talk a bit about balancing the emotional impact of your film and like balancing the emotional levels of the film. Each of you have very different tonally, very different emotions. And I'd love for you to talk a little bit about diving into that. And we'll do the same order. We'll start with you, Jess.
Yeah, I love this question because I had a lot of fun with the like very kind of, you know, playful. I love putting young characters that are dealing with stuff way above their heads, then like into this very playful kind of world around them. But it was really important to me that as young, like I think young activists so often are diminished into like, okay, well, when you're older, you're going to believe something different. You'll start to level out. You'll start to like see a different view of the world. And it was really important to me that we had a moment where it justified how angry this little girl is. And so for me, the phone call that we experience with the father is that moment of like how we deal with balance. Like, okay, this is a very fun, playful world where we get to see this character who has such an extreme kind of view, and then we justify her. And I feel like that to me is how we balance things. And there's always, especially when doing comedy, that balance of like, how do you get the jokes, but then you're actually commenting on something very real. So how do you make that land? And that's that phone call for me.
Susanna, how about you?
Yeah, well, thank you for putting this program together, because I think it's a beautifully curated program, and I love the tagline as well. For this story, so it's the arranged marriage of a 15-year-old girl, and how do you convey that emotion in a film? It's just, for me, I always wondered, and this is a very regular story in Sudan, where young girls get married, and it's not necessarily their choice, and the family aren't necessarily doing something that they think is terribly wrong. You know, it's just like, we want the best for you. So everyone is coming at this from a very good place, you know, despite the outcomes. So I couldn't really convey the emotion other than through silence. So the protagonist is silent throughout the film, because I couldn't even imagine what goes through this girl's mind. So for me, the emotion is all subsumed. It's all under the surface. And then I don't know if you guys have watched it, but towards the end, it's a release. It's a symbolic release.
Suki Rose, let's turn it over to you.
So I was very lucky to get to work with these two actors specifically, both Cricket and Kate. And, you know, we did a lot of rehearsal because we had about like 7 or 8 hours to shoot, and there was no wiggle room because I wanted this location that looked like, you know, posh, and posh locations are expensive. So I had to shoot really fast. So we worked a lot ahead of time. We rehearsed for 2 weeks, you know, in the evenings. just to be able to get the physicality of the slaps to look okay, because I'm not a stunt coordinator, and it turns out slaps are stunts. And, you know, they're both such intense performers that they're like, no, 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 we'll really do the slaps. And I'm just like, nope, I'm not doing that. So we actually, and you know, the build is not linear, but it is like the intensity just builds. So we actually created a little chart with the dialogue about where are we emotionally at this point in dialogue, where is Cricket emotionally at each beat, and how do we have her sort of like, you know, build without hitting 11 too early. So we actually created a little written chart for each of them, and they both bring so much intensity that it really was about balancing their emotional states. And yeah, I mean, it doesn't exist without their brilliance at all. So I was lucky to get to have a chance to work through it really specifically with them leading up to shooting. And since they're both directors also, they understand, you know, obviously we approach directing differently, but they both were like fully in it and were able to speak the same language in terms of hitting the emotional beats in the way that I hoped they would.
Olivia, how about you?
Yeah. Well, the pound was such a beautiful place with so many, I mean, details and colors, and a very delicate and lustful place that I wanted to put inside this very like delicate jewel, something that would be scary and harsh. And so I felt that this environment was giving me the permission to be very raw somewhere else. So I think that the dialogue versus the location works very well in this way. And also when Evelyn, the actress that is doing the long monologue, was rehearsing with me, we found a way to found a very deep voice to deliver this dialogue. So it would be also balancing the harshness and the difficult message it was carrying.
Sierra, how about you?
Yeah, I think the goal with the showing the emotions of young women was to show the different relationships and how those emotions are suppressed with certain people when you're young, and then they are completely, they erupt around other people, like your family. So with the two sisters, when they're with each other, they kind of let out angst, not that they are necessarily causing each other, but from the day and from a guy and from these other emotions that throughout the day they suppress, like the main character who I play, she suppresses everything in front of a guy. And then in the kind of the one shot in the car, it starts hitting her. And when she's in the safe place, when you're young, when you're with your family, that's why, you know, girls are known to be crazy or whatever when they're teenagers. And at least I had a brother and he thought I was a psychopath because I would let out everything I suppressed in school, everything I suppressed around my friends. I would get home and I would let it all out in front of my family, and I would just be, it would be crazy to them, and I would be mean all the time and whatever, because I had so much I was suppressing at school. And so I really wanted to show that, and show that through the power dynamics of when you're around one person that you feel, you know, like a little sister, and you feel your power, you're up here. And then you're in front of a guy you like who doesn't really respect you and is kind of treating you like you don't really matter. And then all of a sudden he has the power and you suppress. And so I wanted to show that to make the emotional moments kind of come out when the sisters are together, because that's more of a safe place. Your family is, at least for me, it was. Yeah.
Over to Hannah.
Yeah, with Sucker, you know, it was really important to me that the two women playing the roles like really feel like they're friends, you know, like they talk the way that I talk and joke with my girlfriends, and they did an amazing job of that, and they're very funny. And you know, the stuff when it gets, they don't really show, one of them doesn't show the other one the full truth. You know, there's a lot of deceit and you know, this kind of deception that only one character is carrying and the other character doesn't know about, is uncomfortable and tense and mean, you know, but you're also wondering why she's doing this. So I think there's also unspoken desires going on there, like some closeted queerness or not knowing that she's queer. You know, these sorts of questions are coming up for one of the characters. So there was a really, I think there was just like a lot of tenderness that happened between these two characters, whether that was through their comedy, which is also a tender thing when you're, you know, showing your true self in a comedic way with people you love, as well as, you know, when you're hurting and you're showing that side of tenderness. And frankly, there's a, you know, the only other sort of balancing out of that is when you're not showing that, in the case of one of my characters, deception. And I think that was hard for the woman playing that character, Dara, because she was trying to understand why she was doing it. Why was this character betraying her best friend? And still trying to lean into the fact that she's doing it because she wants her friend to be doing well. You know, she does love her. As twisted as that comes out for her, there's still a kind of tenderness at the heart of it. Yeah.
One of the great challenges of filmmaking is, as like an art, is that it isn't just you. You know, you have to have so many people around you that are also excelling and, you know, are in line with your vision. I'm wondering if you guys can talk a little bit about the collaborators that you surround yourself with and how you find those people and how you know that someone is the one. And Jess, we'll start with you.
Oh my gosh. I don't know, it's like dating. It's literally like dating 75 times over and over again. Like, and just being like, I don't know. It's so crazy too, because there's so many times, especially this was my first time having a casting director and having a company that really wanted a recognizable face in my film, and battling that with, like, you know, what budget we did have for what level of person they wanted, and the fact that it's a short and all of these things. And we reached a point where it was like, okay, we're not going to get these people that AT&T necessarily wants, it's going to approve of. And they looked at me and were like, I'm sorry. And I looked back at them and said, I don't like that energy of like somebody doing me a favor isn't what's going to make this film great. What's going to make this film great is somebody that like just wants to do the film, that's just so excited about what we're trying to do. And I feel like it's like that. It's like you could be dating the most beautiful person in the world, but if they don't want to be with you, like at the end of the day, it's like gonna fall apart. And it's just, I don't know, there's something unspoken when you like talk to somebody and there's just a rapport and there's an energy. It's like, we're gonna get, I'm a control freak and I'm gonna trust you. And like, that's what I want.
Was there one person on Adeline that you're like, this is the person that made it all come together? And this can be like actors, or it can be crew, production designer, DP, anybody.
I mean, yeah, I think that's an impossible, like it's no, but I will say that the moment that we found Dylan, who plays Adeline, was like the biggest relief of my life, because she was 10 years old when we filmed, and she's just got a power that's like, where are you? And there were so many times that she was spewing out political jargon, and then she'd be like, I have no clue what this means. And we'd have to explain like what reparations are to her. But she is just such a force that like obviously without her that just would be impossible.
Stardom young. Susanna, over to you.
I love that. I love that idea of dating all of your cast, because I mean, you hear about marriages with producers, that we hear all the time, but I don't hear about dating your entire cast, which I love. So because filmmaking in Sudan is so recent, right? So it wasn't something that was encouraged, possibly even outlawed in the last 30 years. Acting was not a thing, right? So for theater, for stage, yes. For television, yes, but not for film. So all the actors in El Cid are stage actors, but we couldn't find any younger people for the film, so we had to hold auditions. And that's where we dated lots of people during those few days. But when I saw Mihad Murtada, when I saw the girl who plays Nafisa, the 15-year-old girl, I knew this was the girl. You know, I just knew immediately. She was just so perfect. And the same with the grandmother. She was just really spectacular. And I think the two of them have a really, really good chemistry with each other. So yeah, so in terms of cast, that's how we did it through auditions. But with the crew, it's so funny because you meet one person, because the filmmaking community is so small in Sudan, you meet one person who leads you to the other person who leads you, so it's like a little community. So as soon as you have one in, then you get the whole community, which was just like really perfect for us. And they're all highly professional. They don't work in film, but they work in commercials and television. So we're very lucky.
Suki Rose, how about you?
So I think I was very lucky because I work mostly as a producer. So I know a lot of people who were like, you're going to direct now? Okay, let's show up, let's do it. There were several roles that were, like the DP. It was the first time I'd worked with Carrie Morgan, and, she brought a lot of other people into the crew with me. And for me, the big struggle is like, it's funny, this analogy of like the one, because like my big struggle is like perfection being the enemy of goodness. So I'm kind of just like, I don't think there is the one. And I'm a little bit like, if I held myself back for years waiting for the one script. Is this the first thing I want to put out? The one DP, is this exactly the person who understands what I'm trying to do? And at a certain point, I was like, oh, this is all like I'm scamming myself into not making anything because it's not perfect. I'm dealing with it right now with the first feature I'm going to take out. And I'm like, is this the me I want to put out there? Is it exactly perfect? And I'm just like, I don't know, like at a certain point, I just want to make shit. So everybody on my crew, it was incredible and showed up and like worked so hard for such a short amount of time. And the fact that it was written specifically for these actors was very helpful because I knew what their strengths were and what they were not. Like, I don't know how I would have cast that. And, like Jessica, you're talking about when you found your lead, what a relief it was. Like literally, I wrapped a short that I was producing like the day before we shot my short, and it had a 16-year-old girl. And the whole time I was like, how are we going to find this person who's going to be able to do it? Like anyone working with young people, young performers, I'm just like, that's terrifying. I'm just like, I'll write around that. It's like, because it can make or break it, And I mean, all of your films just really, you nailed it. But yeah, I think that's my piece about the crew. And a lot of the people who I worked with on this short, I direct a lot of internet content. That's like how I survive mostly. So I keep working with them, and I think also the sound designer I worked with was a real heavy hitter on this because I had such a specific vision about how the sound carries the emotional narrative. So that was like Josh Ascalon. He was great. And yeah, that's what I have to say about that.
Olivia?
Yeah, well, I wrote the short with Evelyne de la Chenelière in mind in the film. She's the woman who's doing the long monologue. And because I don't see her doing that sort of role, and she's a friend of mine. We're writing a feature together, and I wanted to bring her at this place. So she was the point of departure, if you want. And after that, I've been working with the same people for a while. Like my DP, Julien Fontaine, is incredibly talented, and this very like force tranquille, I don't know he's strong and silent, and I don't know, he's doing such a great job with my sensibility. And the producer, Hélène Hébert, who co-produced with me, is a friend of mine as well, and we've been doing so many things together. And so I try to surround myself with friends most of the time. And also, once I had Evelyn for one of the girls, I wanted to find her sisters and her sister, and I did some casting, and it was very magical when Naomi Godin-Vigneault appeared, because they had the same delivery, the same way of talking, and the same delicatesse. They're both like very sophisticated in their presence, and it just fitted very well. Yeah.
Sierra, over to you.
Yeah, since this was my first project, I didn't know any crew. I knew some actors because that's where I came from, was kind of acting a little bit. And so I knew some actors, but my film is majority kids. So I didn't know kid actors. And so that's why I just thought this thing would never get made. And luckily I found a producer who came on board, and she was amazing. And through COVID, I don't even know how she did it, but all of a sudden the ball got rolling, and what I thought was completely impossible because I didn't know anyone really. All of a sudden I meet my DP, who's just, for me, it was everyone who came on board I would hang out with. Like I would want to be I am friends with them. They were so cool. And with my DP, we would get on Zooms and we wouldn't even start talking about the film till probably an hour or two in. And then we were like, okay, we're going to be on this all day. We need to start talking about the film, because we spoke the same language. And same with, so that was Gareth, same with my Susie, the production designer, everyone, we just spoke the same language. Same with cast, those kids, I would hang out with them freaking any day. Like those were amazing kids. And in the beginning, my producer, she was like, and a lot of people told me, don't shoot kids and don't shoot pets because they're very difficult. And for my first project, especially, I was nervous about it, but that was my favorite part of the entire project, was working with those kids, because I learned a lot from them. And then I felt really honored to kind of share wisdom as well with them, because we've all been kids. So we're not like worlds apart, like adults and kids were worlds apart. We're really not. And most of the things they were going through, I was still going through. So it was so fascinating talking to them. So yeah, basically all my cast and crew, I love them all. I'm friends with them all. We all speak the same language. And that was really important for me. And in making this film, was that everyone was on board with the vision and what we were, who I was and the tone of everything. And yeah.
Hannah?
Yeah, I had, so Derek Campbell is a really sort of talented and well-known indie darling actress. And I'd become friends with her, really like her work. She's a really interesting, unusual performer. And I'd run into her and her best friend on the street, and they had such a good energy. And I was like, when I had this experience about catfishing, and I was like, I'm going to turn this into a script because it gave me so many weird emotions. I wrote it with her in mind, and I didn't know who her best friend character was going to be. And I really think my in points for this were Dara, and then finding the other actress, Michaela, who's also an incredible performer. And Dara is also a writer, very literary, reads all the time, so I really took a lot of insight from her about the script as well, lots of feedback from her that I integrated, which made it feel collaborative. And my producer worked with her a few times, and it was really nice to work with her because we jumped in from idea to shooting was 3 weeks, and we just moved. And she was willing to jump on board with that. And my DP as well, who I had just worked with on a a commercial for a bank. But he was really, he's a big cinephile. And so a lot of our touch points were French thrillers and Essayas and Ozon and things like that. And I love that look. And he was so good with bringing ideas around that. So I would say that, yeah, my lead actors, my DP and my producer were just like mad homies, you know?
Okay, well, so I don't want to take up too much of your guys' time, but I want to offer up if any of you want to ask each other questions. I know you've had a chance to watch each other's films, perhaps. Don't feel obligated to ask a question, but you know, in lieu of an audience, I figured I'd throw it out to you guys.
Susanna, I want to know about your actors, because I was just so fascinated, like the faces you have in your film are so beautiful and so interesting. Are those people also people who have experience with, were you working with non-actors? What's the experience of working with actors in Sudan? It's great. It's so, also I'm so glad films.
Thank you. No, thanks. The younger actors, all of the younger actors, this is their first time. They're not actors. This is their first time acting, and now they all want to be actors. And that's the beauty of starting a film industry, or, you know, starting something, because now they think of this as a really possible future. So that's all the younger actors. All the older actors, they're all stage actors. So we were able to, you know, see their profiles, see their faces, see their photographs, and choose them on that basis. But also acting for stage is very different than acting for camera. But it was a really, really interesting experience just to have everyone trying to do something for the first time. Thank you for your question.
Work, because they're so easy to watch. It's so natural.
Yeah.
Anyone else have a question? Suki Rose, yeah.
Olivia, I want to hear a little bit about the sound in your piece, because it is so, it feels so important to what's happening and beautiful. So I just wanted to know if you had anything to share about the sound design in your piece.
I'm always writing with sound in mind, and I'm always choosing location with sound in mind. And that's what was so amazing with the pond, because at night it's a very different atmosphere than at daytime. And it inspired me so much. And I don't know, I think just the fact that I'm writing with sound most of the time it's always a layer. It's always a narrative layer as well. Yeah. And can I add that I was very impressed by your films. I was very humbled by that. I was like, oh my God, I'm included in this program. It's honestly one of the most interesting short film program I've watched in years. I mean, you made me laugh and cry and everything, and it was really engaging each time, a new place, a new universe, but as engaging than the others. So I want to thank you so much for, I don't know, all this talent.
Yeah, I'm so grateful for all of your films. I rewatched all of them yesterday, and they really are so incredible. So you should also be so proud of yourselves.
Yeah.
And can we all agree that Adeline is great?
Oh!
Bless her. Bless her. Hannah, did you have a question that you wanted to ask?
Yeah, I actually asked it in the chat earlier to Jessica, but I was just wondering, like, it felt like it could definitely be a proof of concept for something longer format or television. And I was just wondering if you had any plans or designs for that with this project.
For Adeline.
Mm-hmm.
Since it is a collaboration with a writer, she has written a longer form. I will say that it was a bit of an emotional challenge, because all of my work is super dedicated to Latinx voices and specifically Chicano voices. And I was telling a young Black girl's story, and I don't know if it's mine to expand. Like I told her if it came to a place that she was ready, like she was able to do something more with it and wanted me to be included, I'd love to be, but I'm very dedicated to being able to represent my Mexican American heritage. So that's where we're at right now.
Hannah, I was actually going to ask you if yours was a proof of concept for a feature, because when it ended, I was a little like, wait a second. Like I really wanted to know what was going to happen. So I'm curious if you had a feature in mind. And also agreeing with Olivia, I feel so humbled to be with all of you women. Like all of your films were so many different aspects of being female and so many different emotions, and it was so well-rounded and incredible. And yeah, Hannah, yours in a very weird way hit my emotions early on, and I didn't even know why and understand why. And by the end, I was really curious if you had a feature in mind.
Yeah, it's funny, when I made it, I didn't. And since then I've written a feature based on that. But I'm actually strangely in development for a TV show with it, which I never ever expected, because to me it feels so very closed and linear, like that's why I wrote the feature film version next. But now that we're opening it up to this sort of serialized episodic thing, it's becoming a lot more interesting. So, I just about these two women and their friendship and women friendships, and the sometimes blurry lines between jealousy, support, when one friend gets ahead of the next and one doesn't, and codependency, which can breed toxicity, but also like true love between friends, and sometimes confusion of queerness in the case of these two characters. All to say, that was all in mind in making the feature and all those themes, and also wanting to like explore further the kind of like dubbing technique that I did with the avatars of the guys, the suitors. But now I'm sort of focusing more on looking at it as a kind of serialized piece.
Yeah, that avatar thing you just mentioned, that was really cool, man. That took me by surprise. I was like, wow, okay, sweet. I like that. I like that choice a lot.
The moment when break it felt so vulnerable, when she's like left there non-avatar, just very exposed. Yes.
Cool, nice, thanks.
Any last words, last questions from anybody? I think that we've said enough. I just want to thank you guys again for all being here and being a part of this program and a part of the Seattle International Film Festival, and really looking forward to seeing you all in the lounge very soon. We'll have a happy hour. See you all soon.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you, all of you, thank you.